My name is Kylie Davis and I am the designer for my own brand, Kylie Davis. I would be one of the only designers that do fashion knitwear. People would think of knitwear as remembering Granny knitting them a jumper on knitting needles. I'm quite a tactile person, so knitwear for me, it just ticks a few boxes. I find it really nurturing and I love the way that it feels on your skin and stuff like that. It has this low carbon footprint, it's sustainable, it's easy, it's comfortable, it looks good. I grew up with my mum creating ball gowns and evening gowns. So at the age of 5 I made my first bikini. I knew that I was definitely more creative and a little less academic. I fell into knitwear by chance. I met a friend, he was a technician, he actually knew how to operate and run knitting machines. He used to bring me panels of knit to play with and experiment with. I think I got hooked straight away. Jason and we entered the Benson & Hedges Fashion Awards together, and then we won the overall Supreme Award. So we walked away with $10,000 and we decided to go into business pretty much the next day. I was just about to turn 21, I think, when I first started. At the beginning, it was just the two of us. We were literally doing everything ourselves, but the brand actually grew quite quickly. I was really trying to push the boundaries in terms of design. We were putting things like industrial clasps that we used on yachts and attaching them to knitwear. Everything was produced here locally in New Zealand. So we were creating fabrics and trying to come up with knit structures that hadn't been done before. Insidious Fix closed in 2010.
I love the music.
I had the opportunity to start a second brand. As opposed to producing and manufacturing everything in New Zealand and being quite hands-on in the development and the design and the creative process, everything was made offshore. It was vastly different from my experience with Insidious Fix. Instead of sort of working on the floor with the technicians and designing and creating pieces on the fly, you had to preempt and think a lot more about how you were going to turn something into an end product. I felt quite disconnected as a designer about the process, but again, I learned a different set of skills. I have felt vulnerable starting a third label. I don't think you can ever say that you know everything, and even though I've had 2 previous labels, the times change and business evolves and I need to change with those times. I've been in the industry for almost 20 years, so my own design style and aesthetic has changed. When I had Insidious Fix, it was more streetier, more edgy, it was definitely shorter. We have been doing what we call intimate private showings. It's actually a very old way of doing business. In the early 1900s, that's what people did. They would go and meet with the designer one-on-one and they would see collections in this sort of more intimate, personalised manner. This has also been a really healing experience. I'm able to connect and say, you know, this is who I am, this is where I've been, and I get to learn more about who my customers are. I think it's important to have originality in things. If you're going to do something, you might as well get noticed for it and you might as well stand out for it. As a designer, you're always analysing and assessing like how the yarn's going to perform and what shape it's going to take, because it affects the silhouettes that you create. Each one has its sort of different strengths. I've been able to create something from a raw source and turn it into a finished product. And then I love the feelings that I have when I see those garments on people and the satisfaction that it brings. Our goal is to take the Kylie Davis label and turn it into an international brand. I don't have any intent to have a flagship or a concept store here in New Zealand. The idea for me would be to open up a flagship store in Shanghai, maybe one in Berlin. I love the idea of where we're taking New Zealand-made items back into China. One of the very first things that we did when I did launch the Kylie Davis label was I hopped on the plane and I flew straight up to the UK. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to know if I had what it took. The general consensus was that my product seemed to be unique. It had carved out an aesthetic of its own. In 10 weeks, I put my first debut collection together under the Kylie Davis brand. I picked up an exclusive with Browns in London. It was another one of those sort of momentous moments for me. It was like, okay, no, you're definitely doing the right thing.